So we'll start out with the safe space declaration. I actually do this in my class, especially if we're writing or doing creative work, because sometimes students want to, they want to talk, or they want to feel comfortable. Also, we do creative work, so I want to open up the channels for creativity. So each of us today will share from the heart, and it isn't about judgment. It's about caring for ourselves and having a safe space. Good. All right. We need to all accept that wherever we are today is cool, like today I'm emotional, the end of the term, whatever it is, it's okay to be where we are. And there's a couple of videos, if you ever get a chance to see them, that are amazing about self-care from the wisdom of Angela Davis, who talks about how she got a whole group of activists to start caring better for themselves, talking about meditation, talking about the way she eats, and she's super articulate about why she's doing this work. And then there's Tara Brach, who's very involved in the community of yoga, and she goes to a lot of yoga retreats. She does writing a lot of fantastic books on what she calls radical self-care. And the very idea of radical self-care, she models in her video and talks about self-compassion. So we can move on. So I'll share those. And if you ever get 5 minutes to watch those, it's amazing. Gina, you want to talk about self-motivation?
Sure. So I think a lot of times when we're caring for ourselves as professionals, we need to also think about what our motivation is. Is our motivation to come to work, to be in the presence of others, more intrinsic or internal? Do we do it for the internal joy or happiness, or work with our students? Or is the motivation more extrinsic or based on salary or healthcare, all the benefits? And I think either one is fine, right? However you arrive at this place is perfect and fine. And it's just about knowing your motivation and really being able to identify it and then sitting with that. It's really important to know what brings you to the space that you are in.
So, speaking of knowing, mindfulness is all about knowing. What Gina was talking about just a moment ago. Understanding your motivations for things is not always clear. Mindfulness is a practice that allows us to become more clear about what it is that makes us who we are. The term mindfulness just simply means the presence of heart-mind, or the presence of or being in the present moment. It's a non-judgmental sense of awareness about what's going on. In other words, what that means is mindfulness is becoming an observer and not necessarily forcing or trying to engage with thoughts, but to just observe what those are. And what's really interesting is looking at the Chinese character for mindfulness, which is the combination of two other characters, one for now and one for heart mind, because in the Chinese culture, thought is very closely connected to emotion. And so when we bring our heart and our mind together in the present moment, that's what mindfulness is. So what are some of the benefits of engaging in mindfulness practices? So for starters, reducing stress and increasing our capacity for stress. So we can't always reduce those forces around us that are creating the stress, but we can certainly change the way that we react to it and change and increase our capacity to deal with it, and to be able to stay calm in the face of stress. It allows us to focus better. I'm ADHD HD. I'm sure a lot of other people define themselves that way. And so I just intrinsically have a difficult time with attention. And so by engaging in mindful practice, it really helps me to focus myself and to be able to maintain that throughout the day. By engaging in mindful practices, it gives us an opportunity to kind of see the inner workings of our mind and to develop metacognitive competency, to be able to see how our mind processes things. And by utilizing that knowledge, it allows us to develop more effective strategies in engaging in various kinds of work and education, learning, all sorts of things. Enhancing mental clarity. So being able to really work out problems and issues, to think about, what do I truly believe about certain things? We get confronted all the time about things that challenge our beliefs, and giving mindfulness practices give us an opportunity to really process that and to develop a sense of intuition about what we believe deep down. It's not always readily available to us. And improving our relationships. Mindfulness practices increase empathy and our ability to relate to others. So I want to start with a practice. You are not required to participate. This is a session all about self-care. And if self-care means you just want to sit there and listen, then please do so. But if you would like to join us, then I encourage you to please stand up. You don't have to have your camera on, but you can if you want to. Adjust the angle a little bit. So we'll just stand up, and if you can comfortably close your eyes, please go ahead. If that makes you dizzy, then keep your eyes open. Arms can just rest by the side. If you'd like to bring your arms up all the way, you can do that as well. But for now, just focus the arms at the side. And I want you to just try to move around a little bit in circles, forward and back, side to side. Just feel the weight of your body, feel the feet on the floor, feel your center, which is right here at the navel point, and then find a center balance right in the middle of everything. And maybe come up onto the toes a little bit if you can do that. And we're going to start with the first dimension. This is the dimension of length or height. And I want you to feel as tall as you can possibly feel. Stretch upwards, press down into your heels, and see if you can lengthen your spine upward and really embrace your full height. This length dimension is the dimension of dignity. So if we are feeling as tall as we possibly can, we're embodying our full sense of dignity and integrity. And by imagining ourselves in this position and pulling ourselves upwards, we're increasing that. We're increasing our sense of dignity, our sense of identity and individuality. And then just take some deep breaths here. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And relax into that position, into that height. And now let's focus on our dimension of width. So without moving, I want you to feel a sense of spreading out, taking up more space across, almost like you're spreading your wings or even your arms. And if you want, you can even extend your arms outward just to kind of feel what that feels like. And maybe even bring your arms back to the sides, but still feel like your arms are stretching out wide. This is the dimension of connection and community. And as we expand ourselves in this dimension, it brings us closer to others, and it brings us within community of the group that we have here. Even though we're not in the same room, we can embrace each other through our with. And just take some deep breaths here. You can even sway a little side to side. And as you breathe in and out, expanding your with, feeling yourself connecting and communing and taking up space. And then finally, we'll deal with the dimension of depth as you rock forward just slightly, rock back slightly. This is the dimension of time. We spend so much time focused on the future and the past. As we come forward, this is the future. As we come back, this is the past. But what we really want to find is the present. And so we want to find a balance point right in the middle. And as we find that balance point, we stand tall, we stand wide, we embrace all three dimensions simultaneously, and we breathe. And you can stay here as long as you want in this practice. We're not going to stay here for much longer today, but once you find that balance point, once you find that width, that height, and that center of depth, embrace it, breathe into it, become that, embody it. And slowly open your eyes. If your eyes were closed, you can come seated. And during that practice, we were using a long breath, a long inhale through the nose and a long exhale through the mouth. You can also inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. There's another breath called abdominal breathing, which is a more yogic style breath, where as you inhale through the nose, you bring the breath all the way deep down into the belly, let the belly expand completely. Then the air will begin to rise into the lower rib cage. As that begins to expand, the air rises all the way into the chest and the collarbone rises. As you exhale, the collarbone falls, the rib cage contracts into the midline, and the belly presses toward the spine. So give that a try really quickly. Take maybe 2 deep breaths using abdominal breathing, inhaling deep into the belly, let that belly fill up, let the air rise all the way into the chest, and the chest rises, and then as you exhale, the chest falls, the rib cage contracts, the belly presses toward the spine. Either in and out through the nose or in through the nose, out through the mouth. That first practice, that centering practice, is a somatic exercise. That second one is more of a yogic or mindful breathing exercise. Let's move on to the next practice, meditation. So meditation, a lot of people, I hear this all the time. People say, oh, I can't meditate. I'm not good at it. I can't quiet my mind. Meditation is not about quieting your mind. Meditation is about becoming an observer of the mind. Too often we get stuck in this notion of we have to be completely still, we have to be completely quiet, and we go off into another world. That happens eventually. But if you can meditate for a minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes a day, eventually you improve in your ability to quiet the mind, to relax into it, to enjoy it more. But we have what we call the monkey mind, and the mind will race, especially when we start focusing on it. The mind will just start racing all over the place. It will, travel in a million directions, 1,000 different thoughts all at once, and we have no idea what to latch on to. In mindfulness meditation, we're not latching onto anything. We're just allowing it to happen like a river flowing. And all of those thoughts can just flow down the river, and we can watch them, and we can be amazed and in awe of everything our mind is capable of, but not engage with it. So let's give that a quick try just by sitting up in your chair, feet flat on the floor. Sit in complete silence and focus on your breath. You can close your eyes or you can soften your focus and observe your thoughts as you breathe. Don't engage with them. Don't judge them. Allow them to flow. Find that sense of rhythm and flow that's within you. You know, we're all made of vibration. We're energy. Energy is vibration. So try to focus on that. And just take some deep breaths here. You can use the abdominal breath. You can use just a simple, long, deep breath. And rather than trying to quiet the mind, just observe. We call this sometimes the back of the eyes or the movie of the mind, because we see pictures and light, and that's okay. And the longer we sit, the quieter the mind will become. Sometimes we'll fall asleep, and that's okay. And sometimes we can maintain a sense of quiet alertness. And we can often even introduce a question or an object or an idea and see what our mind comes up with in this state. It's actually a really great technique in class. And just take maybe 3 more breaths. Slowly open your eyes. And come back into this space with us. And hopefully you're feeling a little calmer and a little more present. Let's move on to the next page. So this is a technique that you can use, for example, if you're trying to write and you get writer's block. You can do a short meditation and then pick up a pen, start writing for 10 or 15 minutes, and do not put the pen down. Do not worry about spelling, grammar, punctuation. Don't even worry about what you're writing. You could be writing the same word for 10 minutes. It's okay. You can use a prompt. You can develop an inner inquiry. You can use specific words or question stems. There are word shops, which are experiments that use different stems for inquiry, inner inquiry. And this is a really great tool for you to develop some skill in creative writing. Last part of this section, I highly recommend, because like anything else, you get much better with practice. Start a daily meditation, even up to 5 minutes, 3 minutes even, if that's all you have. You can do it on the subway. You can do a body scan meditation, where you start in your toes and you work your way all the way up to the crown of the head. And each time you move from one body part to the next, you focus on all the sensations that you feel in that particular area of the body. You can meditate while walking. Be completely present, put your phone away, and just focus on your footsteps and the people around you. And you'll notice that when you are more in tune with the rhythm of the world around you, the world becomes more in rhythm with you. Keep a journal. So after you do a meditation, write some notes down, write some thoughts down of what you experienced, and practice your breathing.
Thanks, Kenny. That's always the best. That's always the best. So I think one of the things that is really important and has been important in my life for like 25 years is the gratitude list. So if you're thinking of a self-care idea, this is my absolute favorite, right? And it's really easy because it literally takes 2 minutes. Each day, at the beginning or end of the day, write 5 things that you're grateful for. right? You'll all be on my gratitude list today. But really, really, and if you're like an image-based person, take 5 pictures or think of 5 things that made you happy. You don't even have to write it down. The gratitude list is so important because as we think of things that make us grateful and thankful, every day we just think of more things. So we think about the positivity in our lives instead of maybe a perceived lack. And so it's like such an important exercise. I can't tell you how much the gratitude list has changed my life. In terms of focusing on self-care and mind and emotions, right? We all work so hard. And so my motto has always been like, work hard and play hard. And by play, I mean really play, right? I think as adults, we don't play enough. When is the last time you actually played? Right? So think about that. And so put as much effort into your work as you do into play or on your weekends. And if that means you're type A and you need a to-do list for the weekend to make yourself happy, then you go do that, right? But you really do. It's like a great exercise to be able to prioritize play and joy.
So another practice is self-reflection, and beyond our teaching, but it could be related to our teaching. So I think of consciously thinking of different parts of your inner psyche, whether it's the mind, the heart, and really paying attention to intuition, creativity, and balance, but especially intuition, because some of the greatest ideas for me come when I'm letting go. So for example, in the shower, I always get ideas like, and then it's hard to write them down, obviously, but one of the things I also work on at least once a year, because, you know, we're so into the routine, is doing something that's out of the comfort zone. It could be a small thing like taking a different street, or eating at a different restaurant, or eating in a different room, or it could be a big thing. Like I'm a city girl, so I force myself to go out in the country because I feel like it reminds me of that Woody Allen movie where he's in the middle of Manhattan and cars are coming and he's like, oh, I'm so comfortable here. And then he goes outside of Manhattan and he's really very upset. So I try to make myself at least do one thing, whether it's something artistic or something personal. Then also ask others how they feel. Next, I'm going to segue into just these unexpected places where sometimes we don't think about networking or meeting people or incidental human, experiences. And I think looking at the humanity in ourselves is so important. So for example, just running into somebody in the elevator and having that chit chat, or the proverbial water cooler. And even this can even happen on Zoom, because after the pandemic, when we started to come back, it was pleasantly surprising to see some people that I didn't really know. I'm like, oh, I've only seen you on a screen. So I think of the proverbial water cooler and the chance moments to build community, just little moments to build community. And if we can expand that, that's even better. It's part of the self-care. Another part of it is really building our tribe at work and expanding our tribe, not for social reasons, but just for, again, seeing the humanity in people. And one thing that I've been reading about and I really think about is, extroverts, especially in my classes, our classes, they're very comfortable on Zoom. They're very comfortable in class. They're very comfortable leading groups. And I started to read about the power of introverts and how introverts can be really good leaders. And this has helped my teaching a lot, because I did a self-assessment for my students, 2 of them actually. And a lot of the students wrote that they were introverts, and that's why they didn't want to participate as much on Zoom. And I thought about different ways to integrate them into Zoom without, making them leaders. And what I learned from this reading, from this Slow Teaching by Jamie Tom, which is really focused on K through 12, but it's like a book I would recommend having on your bookshelf, is that introverts can make good leaders. And there's such a thing as an introvert extrovert, which I thought was fascinating because I think that describes me. I'm half and half. And that made me feel really good to know that there's somebody who described me, the introvert extrovert. Okay, and a book that we also like to talk about is The Slow Professor. So I think about finding your tribe is really important, and really identifying who the support people are, who you can let your hair down with, who's a kind of an informal mentor, who are your mentees, whether you're a new faculty or somebody who's been around for a while. So something that really helps me with self-care. This is one of the staples that is on my coffee table, and his backup books as well. I like his daily reader. And in the morning, what I try to do is before I look at my email, I read a couple of these spiritual, just these little daily readers, because they set my mind straight rather than going to my email and getting, kind of hyped up. And I think about the principles in this book, the 4 agreements, and how it really works in leadership, in teaching. The Slow Professor is in the library. Perfect. So maybe each of us might want to take one of these. So I always say to my students, when they hand something in and it's kind of just okay, I'm like, did you do your best? And most of the time they'll say no. And so I always say, do your best, whatever that means for you. And I say that to myself too. And sometimes I don't always do my best, but that's something to live by. Who wants to take impeccable? Kenny or Gina?
I like impeccable. So be impeccable with your words, right? And I think this is really important for us just as people. If we promise something, we do it. If we can't, we say no, no big deal, right? Saying no is a practice. And if we want to say yes, right? And so just thinking about the things that bring us joy and the thinking about the things that bring benefit to our students and ourselves, and say yes to those things and follow up.
Yeah, don't make assumptions. I'm going to take that one because sometimes it's easy to just make assumptions, especially supervising students in the field. Like, oh my goodness, that student teaching experience was a disaster. And here I am making 1,000 assumptions. And then I start questioning the person and I'm like, oh, okay. And hearing all sides of the story. And this is something I constantly have to catch myself on. And it's really about self-care because it can help me sort of dissipate all the anxiety by just listening to both sides. Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, just to comment also on the assumptions, give people grace. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know how people are feeling in a certain situation. Give them the grace to and the benefit of the doubt. All too often, that doesn't happen. And by the same token, you can't just assume that they are going to have the wherewithal to do that for you. And so don't take things personally, because oftentimes when people do things that you might perceive as being harmful to you really have nothing to do with you at all. And so again, you're giving them some grace to understand what they're dealing with, that they may be taking something out on you that has nothing to do with you. And maybe it does have something to do with you, but rather than deal with it in a way that's collegial, they are acting out for some other reason. Don't take it personally, because really that has nothing to do with you. And it's only going to weigh heavily on you.
Thank you.
So there's this concept of flow. It's talked about quite a bit in The Slow Professor. They also refer to it as timeless time. From an academic perspective, Csikszentmihalyi is a positive psychologist that has done a lot of work in this area. And flow is essentially that feeling of timelessness when you're engaged in an activity so deeply that everything else just falls away. I'm sure all of you have experienced this at one point or another. And most times when you're engaged in this sense of flow, you're not purposely looking to do that. It just sort of happens. Again, bringing it back to my ADHD, I experience a sense of hyperfocus sometimes. And it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. When I'm in that state, nothing else exists. I can't hear other people, I can't be interrupted. And in some ways, that's a good thing. Now, there are ways to cultivate this. And when you cultivate it, you want to set the stage for doing it properly so that you can fully engage into this sense, this feeling of timelessness. It must start with a transition of some sort. So you can't just simply go right into it. You have to engage in some sort of ritual. That could be a meditation. It could be a breath, just breathing. It could be writing doing a journal, whatever works for you to kind of transition yourself from regular time and space into this sense of timelessness. Also, you will need to acknowledge the length of time that this will take. It will probably take you double the amount of time that you think it will. Because not only, of course, will you have this experience of timelessness, and who knows how long you can be in that sense, but there's the time it will take to get there and the time it will take to transition back. So acknowledge that it will take a lot more time than you think, and give yourself the time to be able to properly engage in that so you don't cut yourself off. Playfulness is something that's really important, especially in creative endeavors. Gina talked about this earlier. So when you're trying to cultivate a sense of flow, you want to be as playful as possible, because you're more likely to engage in a sense of timelessness if you're doing something fun and creative than if you are doing something that you find challenging and difficult. The last two are silencing the inner critic and the outer critic. So that inner critic is that inner voice, that naysayer. I call it the ego. It's that voice that tells you, or your negative mind, that voice that tells you you can't, you don't want to, this is too hard, or you shouldn't be doing it. Anything that, that imposter syndrome that you might feel. The outer critic is the voices that you give to people in your head that they're not actually saying, but that you think that they're thinking. So people thinking, oh, well, why are you bothering to do this at work? This is a waste of time. This isn't the kind of work that you should be doing, or whatever it is that you think other people may be thinking about you when you're engaging in this work. Silence that. So silence the inner critic, silence the outer critic, and you'll have a much easier time engaging in this sense of flow.
So I was thinking about looking at myself or looking at ourselves and talking about the growth and the fixed mindset. And I came across this quote from the Taoist water traditions that made me, this is an excellent reflective question. There's actually 5 of them, but I just decided to think about one of them. So I think about this every day, and sometimes I'm sitting in committee meetings and I have to think about this because I start to get into that fixed mindset. So the question is, how can I remove obstacles to change? Come to accept myself as a worthy human being and learn to live a life that leaves me in harmony with those around me. So I think about when I'm resisting an idea, somebody else's idea, and I'm being stubborn or I'm being resistant, how can I free that up? I mean, there'll be a time to speak up and there'll be a time to let go. So when I practice this in my class, I kind of get out of myself, which is great, because what I do is I get into that playfulness with students, and I try to do this in the classes that are appropriate for it. So some of the things I do to get students out of the box a little bit is I tell them to unmic and I have them sing. And Gina was in one of my classes where they were singing nursery rhymes. And you cannot get mad at anybody when you're singing a nursery rhyme, right? Of course, this has to do with my content. If you're teaching something else, it may not. Then another thing that gets students in a great mood is choral speaking, because nobody has to worry about what they sound like. And, you know, if you make a mistake, everybody kind of gets drowned out, which is great. And it's a good feeling that students don't have to raise their hand. We also use a lot of creative work, writing, drawing, when I bring colored pencils in. Jamie, our Jamie Blywise is famous. I see her carting all these crafts down the hall and I want to follow her. You know, so all of this, it brings out good feelings in the students, especially near the end of the semester when they are feeling, you know, just, you know, crazy. We had a trivia thing yesterday. We played trivia. So that kind of freed them up a lot. Okay, so we're going to the next one. I really like this growth mindset philosophy, even though it's been around for like 10 years and it's been used everywhere. But I really think about this, and I really ask my students to think about this, because fixed mindset and growth mindset doesn't have to do with age. Often we think, well, older, you know, we hear older people are, but I have seen new teachers that are completely not open to any kind of feedback, or they feel what's beneath it is a feeling of, I can't, and I need to help them in the courses that I teach, or whatever it is, whatever course, whether it's teaching or another content, to get out of that mindset of I can't, or this is my lens. And so I have them kind of examine, are you in a fixed mindset? Are you in a growth mindset? Sometimes I give them an article, a well-crafted article to read. Sometimes we just have reflective questions on a self-assessment. And I also think about the students who want the A+, but they don't really want to go through the process. So I think about the power of yet. So there's so many things in life that I want to think about. I may not be able to do it now, but it's yet. And I want my students to use that with their students, because sometimes I hear them saying, oh, you know, they're nonverbal, they're pre-verbal, they can't do it. I'm not teaching that because they can't do it. And I want them to work on themselves. So I practice this and I model for them. And I sometimes I'm transparent with them depending on the class. So this is very, very important for my self-care, for my classroom, for my community of learners, and for their students. So thinking about yourself right now, growth mindset feels like a gentle breeze when we're open, when we're willing. I think about beautiful scents like smelling fresh bread. Fixed mindset feels like the A train at rush hour. I'm stuck. I can't get out. I wish it would stop. That's one thing. So I think about, as a college professor, you know, we have these end-year evaluations and so on, and that gets me in a tiz. So what I start thinking about is one goal. One goal. I set my bar very, very low, not for low expectations, but so I can reach it. So I usually put one goal on my end-year evaluation, and that way I can reach it. And mentally it helps me because then I feel excited when I reach it. So like last year, my goal was I wanted to speak on another topic because I always speak on one topic. And I said I wanted to speak outside of New York City because I would speak out, you know, inside New York City. And I reached it, and I was so excited. And I also met people from upstate, and it was exciting to do that. So that one goal made me feel like, oh, I can reach many, many more. So I urge you to think of one goal right now, just one. Go ahead. Gina?
Yeah. And then another thing is the vision board. I was so meh about vision boards, right? And then 5 years ago, I made a vision board 5 years ago. 1 year ago, I'm cleaning out my attic. I found a vision board that I had made 5 years ago, and everything came true. And it was so eerie. And so now I am a huge fan of just creating vision boards. They're just collages of like future goals and things you want to be and what do you want for your life. I have my students do it too. It's just a fantastic tool for goal setting, and it is so much fun on a rainy day. We have family vision boards too.
So we have a Padlet if you want to put your goal down for self-care. Just one goal or any goal you want, or you can say it to yourself, or you can put it in the chat. But if you could just commit to one goal, it could be to not eat potato chips today, I don't know, or eat some healthier potato chips or eat less of them, whatever your self-care goal is. Think about it. You don't have to share it. If you want to, you can. Just to summarize, because we're coming up on 7 minutes and I want to open it up for thoughts. So we call this presentation 10 ways, but there's probably more. So number one is Gina's a big fan of positive psychology, and I'm always interested in her research about intrinsic motivation. I think about being and doing. I don't want to be there's a saying, I don't want to be a human doing, and I am most of the time. So I try to practice being a human being rather than a human doing. Consider the meditation, relaxation, and I have been practicing, Kenny, 1 minute a day, that's it. Make a gratitude list. I love potato chips, he writes. Great. Make a gratitude list. I'm grateful for potato chips. Reflect on your particular strand of how you operate. Do you operate on heart, mind, head, intuition? Throw it off and operate a different way, just for a day, and see how it happens. See how it works. Listen to your intuition or whatever. Think of one way to infuse that joy and playfulness that Gina talked about. Collegiality, we think about the humanness, the human touch. We consider the introverts in our learning community, and think of them a little bit more like they can lead as well. They're good listeners. Name your tribe, enlist new members. Focus on your emotions, and for a minute, and let your pet, wait, let your kid wait, let your husband, wife, partner wait, and focus on your own awareness. I think that's real important. Consider a growth mindset and set realistic goals. And I'll add one more that comes from my husband, who's very rational. He talks about staying in your own lane. And I have to remember that one too, because I'm good at getting in other people's lanes, and I need to stay in my own. So with that, that's our 10 ways. Kenny, you want to take the books?
You can stay in your own lane, but you can also widen that lane. So we have here a handful of books that we talked about. The majority of these. Slow Professor by Berg and Sieber is a really fantastic book. It's very short, very pointed, and offers some really great tips about how to maintain some sanity in an insane profession. Carol Dweck's Mindset, probably most of you are familiar with that. It's a very famous book. Finding Flow is by Csikszentmihalyi. And we'll talk more about that idea of how to find more flow in your life. Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking, I think, is a classic in this area of positive psychology. And The Art of Positive Thinking is sort of a variation on that incorporates mindfulness. And then, of course, speaking of mindfulness, that last book there on the top row is Wherever You Go, There You Are, which is a classic by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is, the essentially the father of secular mindfulness, a Harvard professor, and works at Massachusetts General. The Four Agreements, we talked about that earlier, by Miguel Ruiz. Neurodharma, which I think Gina referenced in parts of her talk. And then Jamie Tom, who Liz talked about, has two books there, Slow Teaching and Teacher Resilience, which are not only good for professors, but also for our teachers in training at the School of Ed. And then finally, the website right there, mindful.org, is a really great resource for getting some mindfulness tips and practices that you can engage in.